Chapter 648. The Puppet Master Family, the Southwest Wong Family. After several tests, Lin Moyu confirmed that as long as he did not enter the range of 10,000 meters, there would be no danger. 10,000 meters was the critical point. The vortex connected to the other seas in all directions. Lin Moyu was very sure that there were monsters living in the other seas. But near the vortex, there were no monsters at all. Even the starlight from the Starlight Sea disappeared. There was no starlight here. The vortex seemed to have become a forbidden zone, and no monster dared to approach it. But if you can't get close, you can't explore it. Detection spells also couldn't reach beyond 10,000 meters.
Let's try using the undead army.
Lin Moyu summoned 10 headless horsemen and had them charge towards the vortex from different directions. He wanted to use the headless horseman's vision to see what was inside the vortex. After all, the headless horsemen wouldn't die. Even if they suffered a fatal attack, they would be reborn in his summoning space. The headless horsemen activated their charge skill, rushing forward at a speed of 3,000 meters per second. 10 headless horsemen charged from different directions and angles. Just as they entered the 10,000-meter range of the vortex, they advanced less than 100 meters, taking less than 0.1 seconds. They all collapsed silently. Without any commotion, the headless horsemen died instantly and then reappeared in the summoning space. They died simultaneously with almost no difference in timing. Through the headless horseman's vision, Lin Moyu felt the attack on their souls. There was almost no difference in timing. Lin Moyu's eyes sparkled.
Let's try again.
10 headless horsemen were too few, so this time he released 10,000 headless horsemen. The headless horsemen surrounded the vortex, covering all directions, both in the sky and underwater. With Lin Moyu's command, the headless horsemen collectively activated their charge skill and rushed forward again. Lin Moyu's soul force surged, connecting to tens of thousands of visions. Then, a shocking scene occurred. He saw a flash of blue light, followed by a giant face. The face seemed human, but it was filled with various kinds of monsters. The human face was composed of soul force, immensely powerful yet chaotically conscious. It appeared like a beast above the vortex, letting out a roar. The soul force spread out for 10,000 meters, and all the headless horsemen collapsed simultaneously. Lin Moyu also trembled violently, his face pale. Because his soul was connected to the headless horseman, the roar affected his soul as well. The 9-colored dragon soul crystal continuously emitted soul force, healing Lin Moyu. The soul injury was light, just a shock, and it healed in an instant. Lin Moyu had some guesses about the vortex. That human face explained many things. The face was just a form. The essence was still a soul attack. More fundamentally, it was the chaotic consciousness within, indicating that the soul energy was composed of countless souls. Their souls combined, but their consciousness did not unify. Where did these souls come from? They were likely monsters attracted by the water flow. They were sucked into the vortex, their souls trapped, becoming the vortex's power. Their consciousness was not destroyed but trapped together. Lin Moyu suddenly felt a chill down his spine. If the consciousness existed and could still think, then the vortex was an eternal prison of torment.
What exactly is inside the vortex? Trapping souls is not something ordinary people can do.
Lin Moyu prepared to try again, to draw out the face and observe it. Although the observation time was only about 0.1 seconds, he thought that with more attempts he might discover something. Just as he was about to summon the headless horseman again, Lin Moyu suddenly stopped. He turned his head and saw 2 professionals flying towards him from a distance. A man and a woman holding hands, looking like a couple. The man appeared to be around 40 years old. The woman seemed about the same age but looked much younger due to some beauty techniques. The 2 flew to Lin Moyu's side, and the man cupped his fists towards Lin Moyu.
Brother, are you also here to admire the central vortex?
The central vortex was the name of this vortex. Lin Moyu nodded. The man continued.
In a moment, it will be time for the vortex to reverse flow. This is a rare spectacle that happens only once a year.
Lin Moyu asked,
What is the vortex reverse flow?
He had not seen any records of the vortex reverse flow, nor had he heard anyone mention it. The man laughed.
It's just a name I gave to the spectacle. I read in an ancient book that the central vortex erupts once a year, causing the seawater to spray upwards. It's said to be very spectacular.
Lin Moyu was shocked.
Seawater spraying upwards, what will happen?
The man shook his head.
It's just as it sounds. I haven't seen it myself, but it's said to be very spectacular.
The woman suggested.
Let's get closer to see.
The man agreed and they flew closer. Lin Moyu shouted.
Come back.
The man paused.
What's the matter, little brother?
Lin Moyu said.
Don't get within 10,000 meters. It's dangerous and could be fatal.
The man was slightly taken aback but did not completely believe Lin Moyu. However, Lin Moyu did not seem to be joking. Suddenly, the man took out a metal bead. The metal bead was only the size of a fist. The man threw it into the air and then cast a skill. With a bang, the metal bead exploded, transforming into a half-human-sized sword-wielding puppet. Lin Moyu looked at the man.
A puppet master?
Puppet masters were rare, and this profession had a bloodline inheritance. In the Xinxia Empire, there was only one puppet master family. The man should be from that puppet master family. The man proudly said.
That's right, the Southwest Wang family. Wang Feng.
The Southwest Wang family, a puppet master family, was an ancient family in the Xinxia Empire. Their history was even older than the Xinxia Empire, existing before the founding of the nation. Their ancestors made indelible contributions to the Xinxia Empire and the entire human race. They were recorded in the history books of the Xinxia Empire. However, in the past century, the Southwest Wang family had not produced any god-level experts and had somewhat declined. But within the empire, no one dared to underestimate them. Even families with god-level experts did not dare to provoke them. Firstly, because the Wang family was full of honor. Secondly, because the family possessed god-level puppets. Wang Feng, as a descendant of the Southwest Wang family, had already reached level 83 and had a high chance of becoming a new generation god-level puppet master. So he had every reason to be proud. Lin Moyu's mind flashed with a lot of information about the Southwest Wang family.
The Wang family is a great family.
Lin Moyu said with a hint of respect. The Wang family indeed made great contributions to the Xinxia Empire and the entire human race. Wang Feng's expression became even more proud. He pointed forward, and the sword-wielding puppet immediately charged forward. The puppet's aura was not apparent, but judging by its speed, it should have the combat power of around level 80. Moreover, Lin Moyu could sense a soul fluctuation within the puppet, forming a special connection with Wang Feng. Lin Moyu judged that Wang Feng was likely controlling the puppet with his own soul. This suggested that puppet masters had some research on souls. At least among other professionals below god level, Lin Moyu rarely saw anyone with research on souls. The puppet quickly crossed the 10,000-meter boundary and suddenly stopped, falling from the sky. Wang Feng simultaneously let out a cry and instantly became listless. His face turned pale, and his expression showed a hint of fear, as if he had seen something terrifying. Lin Moyu knew that his soul had suffered some damage. After all, he was controlling the puppet with his soul, and when the puppet was destroyed, his soul was also affected. However, the damage was not severe, and he would recover in a few days even without treatment.
Brother Feng, are you okay?
Wang Feng shook his head, indicating he was fine. Then he asked Lin Moyu,
What exactly is going on here?
Wang Feng's tone was still polite. He did not blame Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu had kindly warned him. If he had gone himself, it might not have been just the puppet that died. Losing a puppet was not a big deal. Even if it was difficult to make, it was better than losing his life. The soul attack just now was extremely terrifying. He knew that if he had gone, he would not have survived. In this sense, Lin Moyu's warning had saved his life. Lin Moyu said,
I haven't figured it out yet, but it should be a soul attack.
Wang Feng said,
There is very little information about the central vortex. I only found a few words in an ancestor's notebook, mentioning that the central vortex erupts once every few years, causing the seawater to spray upwards. After some calculations, I deduced the specific time of the seawater spray.
Wang Feng's family was old enough to know some things that outsiders did not, which was not surprising. But what exactly was the seawater spray? He did not know. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the vortex. The seawater, which had been continuously flowing in, suddenly became violent. The center of the vortex seemed to boil, with water columns rising, and seawater began to reverse flow, forming water columns. Lin Moyu's face changed slightly, and he immediately shouted,
"Retreat!"
649, 649. Chapter 649. The lower space is like a god's graveyard. Lin Moyu retreated quickly, and Wang Feng and his wife followed suit. Lin Moyu retreated tens of thousands of meters until he was more than 30 kilometers away from the vortex before stopping. At this time, the vortex was churning with waves, each wave rising over 1,000 meters and increasing rapidly. The vortex expanded rapidly, swallowing all the surrounding seawater. The place where they had just stood was submerged by the expanding vortex in less than half a minute. Wang Feng looked terrified. If they had retreated a bit slower, it would have been a life-and-death crisis.
"Thank you, brother."
Wang Feng sincerely thanked Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu did not speak but stared intently at the vortex. Others saw the surging waves, but he saw the violent souls beneath the waves. A massive soul force appeared in the vortex, transforming into a giant hand that continuously slapped the water surface, creating towering waves. The soul riot was felt not only by Lin Moyu but also by Wang Feng. Such a violent and powerful soul force made Wang Feng feel that if he were hit, he would definitely die. His face turned even paler. It was not just the injury but also the fright.
How could this be? The notes of the ancestors did not mention this.
Wang Feng kept muttering, and his palms began to sweat. Lin Moyu still did not respond to him but delved deeper into his perception. The towering waves were just the surface. The core was the riot of soul force. And what was the core of the soul force riot? Why was it rioting? Lin Moyu delved deeper and saw a consciousness far more chaotic than before. The vortex had absorbed a large number of living creatures and monsters, trapping their souls and consciousness together. Under some great power, the souls fused, becoming stronger. However, the consciousness did not fuse. They remained independent and scattered, becoming chaotic and disordered. It was like a powerful army without a unified command. Some soldiers wanted to go south, others wanted to go north, some wanted to charge, and some wanted to retreat. Yet the entire army was so powerful that even a small burst of its force could destroy the enemy. The chaos did not matter much before. Previously, the consciousness was chaotic but had not reached an explosive state. Now, it seemed that some changes had occurred within the vortex, causing these chaotic consciousnesses to completely explode. After several minutes of chaos, the vortex finally reached its limit. With a loud bang, a massive water column shot up from the center of the vortex, reaching tens of thousands of meters high, straight into the sky. At this moment, the sky and the sea became one. From a distance, it looked like a waterfall flowing backward, extremely spectacular. Such a massive water fountain had never been seen before. It was as if it was going to pierce the sky. Wang Feng and his wife exclaimed in amazement, and their previous fear subsided a lot. Lin Moyu watched the sky-high fountain and sensed that with this eruption, the chaotic consciousness was suddenly driven out and quickly dissipated between heaven and earth. A peculiar aura emanated from the bottom of the vortex.
God!
Lin Moyu frowned, sensing the aura of a god. Along with the god's aura, there was also the power of laws. The power of laws quickly unified the soul force, extracting the essence and discarding the dross, with the chaotic consciousness being the dross. In an instant, the chaotic consciousness was driven away, leaving the soul force extremely pure. The pure soul force then fell with the waves, re-entering the vortex. The vortex was like an invisible giant mouth, swallowing the purified soul force in one gulp. The god's aura also disappeared without a trace. Lin Moyu finally understood that there was a god inside the vortex, at least a high-level god. It controlled the vortex, absorbing a large number of monsters and living creatures, using extremely brutal methods to fuse their souls together. When the quantity was sufficient, it used the power of laws to drive away the chaotic consciousness, absorbing the pure soul force. This indiscriminate method of imprisoning and devouring souls, Lin Moyu felt that this god was not friendly or kind. After one eruption, the vortex quickly returned to calm. The vortex shrank and its range became much smaller than before. Wang Feng exclaimed,
"It's over. Although dangerous, it was indeed spectacular. The sky and sea as one, the ancestors did not lie to me. It was worth seeing."
He could only feel the surface soul force, unlike Lin Moyu, who sensed it more deeply. He could not perceive the deeper layers. Lin Moyu stared at the vortex, analyzing based on what he had seen and sensed.
There should be a god sleeping in the depths of the vortex, probably severely injured. As long as anything enters the vortex, whether it is a monster, human, demon, or dragon, it treats them all the same, accepting all. Every few years, when enough souls have gathered, it wakes up, uses the power of laws to drive away the consciousness, and completely devours the pure soul force. It seems that this god specializes in soul-related powers.
Gods have their specialties, and the god sleeping in the vortex clearly specializes in soul powers. At least, it is not something Lin Moyu can currently compare to. Lin Moyu pondered as he slowly flew forward. Wang Feng hurriedly called out,
"Brother, what are you doing? It's dangerous there."
Lin Moyu replied,
"It's temporarily not dangerous. I'm going to take a look."
Wang Feng hesitated but did not follow. The previous eruption of the vortex had really scared him. If he had been hit by that, he would have died for sure. He cherished his life and decided to watch from a distance. Lin Moyu approached to within 10,000 meters of the vortex, and a headless horseman appeared, charging towards the vortex. This time, the headless horseman successfully entered the 10,000-meter range. It was not attacked and continued to advance safely. It was not until the headless horseman was within 1,000 meters of the vortex that the soul attack struck again. The headless horseman died instantly and returned to the summoning space. The range had shrunk to 1,000 meters, meaning the god's defensive circle had shrunk to 1,000 meters. However, the soul attack within this 1,000-meter range was even more intense than before. This was a forbidden zone, not allowing anyone to enter.
This god still left some power for defense. It seems its injury is not that severe.
Lin Moyu did not intend to enter. He was not arrogant enough to provoke a high-level god specializing in soul attacks. His gaze swept across the lower space, as if seeing through the 4 seas in the lower space. In the lower space, except for the divine dragon continent in the east, almost every continent had something related to gods. The entire lower space was like a graveyard of gods. There had been a great war here, and many gods had fallen. Wang Feng saw that Lin Moyu was fine and bravely approached.
"Brother, are you okay?"
Lin Moyu shook his head, indicating he was fine. Wang Feng said,
"I don't know what's going on with this central vortex. I've never heard anyone say it's so dangerous."
Lin Moyu chuckled.
"That's because those who got too close all died. Dead men tell no tales."
Wang Feng suddenly felt a chill.
"Oh my, it's so terrifying. Forget it, I won't come here again." "Yes, don't come unless necessary."
This was the resting place of a powerful god. There was no point in coming here unless one intended to slay a god.
"But it doesn't look dangerous."
Wang Feng looked around, unable to see where the danger was. The vortex looked exceptionally calm at this moment. As long as one did not enter its 1,000-meter forbidden zone, there was no danger at all.
"It looks harmless, but it's actually very dangerous. This god is very good at disguising."
Suddenly, a series of crisp sounds rang out, gradually forming a beautiful melody. The sound was melodious and carried a unique rhythm.
Soul sound.
Lin Moyu identified the sound coming from the vortex. Wang Feng exclaimed,
Brother, do you hear something?
Lin Moyu nodded.
It's the soul sound.
The woman beside Wang Feng asked curiously,
Why can't I hear it?
Wang Feng explained,
That's because your soul level is not high enough. It's normal not to hear it.
Then Wang Feng looked puzzled.
Why do I feel like this sound is summoning something?
Lin Moyu pointed to the distance.
It's summoning the monsters in the sea.
The soul sound was targeting the monsters, and Lin Moyu could hear it because his soul level was high. Although Wang Feng's soul level was not as high as Lin Moyu's, he could still hear the sound. Under the summoning of the soul sound, a large number of monsters rushed from the sea into the vortex, ignoring the danger. As they entered the 1,000-meter range of the vortex, they died silently. Their souls and consciousness were extracted and fused. The range of the vortex also expanded. Lin Moyu watched the scene, knowing that the same thing had likely happened countless times. The sleeping god repeatedly summoned living creatures, killed them, and forcibly fused their souls together. Then, every few years, it would wake up and devour the fused souls in one gulp. The law of the jungle was fully displayed here. The god was powerful and could treat these monsters as it pleased. Not only monsters, but even professionals, dragons, and demons would meet the same fate if they entered, with no distinction. 650. Chapter 650. The feeling of being suppressed shouldn't be this weak. Lin Moyu left without saying a word. What was being played out at the vortex was the naked rule of survival. The most brutal survival rule in the world was on display, with no sympathy, no right or wrong, only survival and death. The weak are slaughtered, which is the greatest truth in the whole matter. Wang Feng chased after him.
Brother, where are you going?
Lin Moyu said lightly,
To the Azure Dragon Sea. The Azure Dragon Sea?
Wang Feng was momentarily confused. Weren't they already above the Azure Dragon Sea? Lin Moyu's next move told him the answer. Lin Moyu suddenly changed direction and plunged into the ocean, disappearing in an instant. Wang Feng had a look of sudden realization.
So he's going to the seabed.
He clearly saw that Lin Moyu didn't want him to follow, so he didn't pursue. The woman came to Wang Feng's side and whispered,
This person is so strange.
Wang Feng smiled.
Most geniuses have some quirks.
The woman asked curiously,
Is he very powerful?
Wang Feng nodded.
Only level 74, but his soul is comparable to a god level. If he's not powerful, who is?
The Wang family has its own heritage and can sense the soul level of a target. Lin Moyu's soul level is very high, already reaching the god level. In other words, for Lin Moyu, achieving god level is inevitable. So Wang Feng was very polite to Lin Moyu, different from how he treated others. Wang Feng smiled.
Be polite when you see him in the future. His future achievements are limitless.
The woman, being experienced, understood the meaning behind Wang Feng's words. No one knows how deep the Azure Dragon Sea is. An 89-level professional once went down, diving tens of thousands of meters without reaching the bottom. Finally, due to excessive pressure, he had to give up. Lin Moyu knew that if the Divine Core was still in the Azure Dragon Sea, it could only be at the bottom. The Azure Dragon Sea was silent, with no monsters or living creatures. Even though the vortex emitted a soul call, summoning monsters from the Starlight Sea and Wind and Thunder Sea, there were no monsters from the Azure Dragon Sea. It was as if there were no monsters in the Azure Dragon Sea at all. But Lin Moyu knew there were monsters in the Azure Dragon Sea. When something is unusual, there must be a reason. Lin Moyu dived deeper and deeper, quickly reaching a depth of 5,000 meters. There was no light here, only complete darkness. His soul power flowed out, becoming Lin Moyu's eyes. Water pressure came from all directions, constantly pressing on Lin Moyu. However, Lin Moyu was not affected at all. The water pressure at 5,000 meters was not enough to harm him. He continued to dive until he reached a depth of 10,000 meters. Suddenly, a white light appeared, and his skeletal armor was automatically activated. Lin Moyu continued to dive, reaching 20,000 meters, 30,000 meters. At 50,000 meters, the skeletal armor could no longer withstand the pressure and shattered. Lin Moyu did not replenish it, as it would just shatter again, saving him the trouble. All the pressure he endured was greatly weakened and transferred to the undead army. The undead army in the summoning space shared the pressure for Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu continued to dive. Finally, at 100,000 meters, he reached the seabed. The water pressure here was astonishing. Even an 89-level professional couldn't withstand it. At least a god level was needed to reach this depth. But god-level professionals couldn't operate in the lower space for long. Lin Moyu realized why the Kunlun great deity didn't ask others. It would be useless. Below god level, only he could withstand it. The dead silence of the azure dragon seafloor was in stark contrast to the turbulent surface. The power of the vortex still existed, and the soul calls and the suction from the vortex could still be heard here. Compared to the surface, it was much weaker.
Hopefully, the divine core hasn't been dragged into the vortex. If it has, I'll have to give up.
Lin Moyu didn't want to confront the god in the vortex for now. That god was too powerful, and he had no confidence. The seabed was 100,000 meters deep, equivalent to 100 kilometers. The holy sound wind chimes sensing range for the divine core was also 100 kilometers. This meant Lin Moyu could only search for the divine core in the sea. Lin Moyu began to ascend, maintaining a depth of around 50,000 meters, and started searching along the Azure Dragon Sea. He calculated that at his speed, it would take about 6 days to search the entire Azure Dragon Sea. Not too long, provided nothing unexpected happened. As he moved away from the vortex, the soul sound became fainter until it disappeared. The suction from the vortex also gradually vanished. Lin Moyu realized he had reached the area beneath the wild continent. Beneath the continental shelf, besides seawater, there were large underwater rocks forming complex passages. Under the sensing of his soul power, a large number of monsters appeared. These monsters were clearly avoiding the vortex, hiding and not being lured by the soul sound. Lin Moyu's unexpected arrival immediately caught the monsters' attention. The monsters, with territorial awareness, launched fierce attacks on Lin Moyu in groups. Lin Moyu didn't hold back, releasing the undead army to slaughter in the sea. For a time, the peaceful Azure Dragon Sea became extremely lively. The undead army rampaged, leaving no monsters alive. Blood stained the underwater world. The smell of blood attracted more monsters, and the once peaceful Azure Dragon Sea floor became completely chaotic. Lin Moyu ignored the monsters and continued searching for the divine core. The undead army rampaged, killing wherever they went. Lin Moyu discovered that many monsters in the Azure Dragon Sea had poisonous attributes. Even in the seawater, green and blue glows could be seen. Many monsters could spray poison, covering large areas. Poison was a nightmare for professionals, but it had no effect on him. The undead army was even more immune, with the Lich General's cleansing skill able to remove even corpse poison, let alone the poison here. The underwater world of the Azure Dragon Sea was much larger than the wild continent. At a depth of 100,000 meters, every few hundred meters, there were large numbers of monsters. The monsters had their own territories, forming layers of territorial spaces. The scale of the underwater world was at least equivalent to hundreds of wild continents. Lin Moyu's disturbance attracted a massive number of monsters. Searching for the divine core and leveling up by killing monsters, both tasks were accomplished simultaneously, and his experience soared. In just a few hours, he leveled up. From level 74 to level 75, Lin Moyu's eyes showed joy.
I didn't expect so many monsters in the sea. I should have come earlier. Even if I don't find the divine core, this trip is worth it.
Lin Moyu added another task, continuously summoning to replenish the undead army. At level 75, the total number of the undead army reached 187,000. Lin Moyu still maintained an even distribution among the four major types of soldiers, with 46,750 of each type. Not only did the quantity increase, but the attributes also improved significantly. The highest attributes were those of the skeleton berserkers with balanced four-dimensional attributes, each reaching 1.1 million, totaling 4.4 million. The total attributes of the skeleton mages were slightly lower than those of the skeleton berserkers, but their mental attributes stood out, reaching 3.8 million. The headless horsemen had higher strength and constitution attributes than the skeleton berserkers, with total attributes also exceeding 4 million. Only the skeleton archers had slightly lower attributes, but their soul attack skills made their attack power not inferior. As Lin Moyu's level increased, the improvement of the undead army became more significant. At the same time, Lin Moyu also felt a sense of suppression. It was as if an invisible force was suppressing him. He had felt this before, the first time after his second transition. But at that time, the feeling was weak, and his soul was not strong, so he thought he was mistaken. As his level increased, the feeling became more apparent. Especially after his soul reached the god level, the feeling appeared every time he leveled up or his skills improved. It was just a feeling, with no trace to be found. He had mentioned this to Antares, but even Antares couldn't explain it. Antares even suspected that he might be mistaken. Sometimes, Lin Moyu also wondered if he was mistaken. After this level up, the feeling of being suppressed appeared again. He couldn't find the source and couldn't describe it in words. It was just a vague feeling. Lin Moyu even had the thought that his skills shouldn't be this weak and could be stronger. It was as if some rule was limiting his skills. Without his innate talent, his skeletons were indeed not strong. At level 75, the total attributes of the skeleton berserkers were only about 55,000. Even with the Lich General's bonus, the attributes were less than 100,000. Even the most ordinary human professionals had total attributes exceeding 500,000 at level 75. Without his innate talent, his only advantage would be the large number of summons and various skills. Without his innate talent, he could still easily defeat professionals of the same level. Not to mention one-on-one, he could take on 10 at once. But to reach his current level, it would be impossible. Since he had a unique profession and had undergone 2 profession enhancements, he shouldn't be this weak. Even without his innate talent, he shouldn't be this weak. As his level increased, the feeling of being suppressed became more intense. It remained a mystery that continued to trouble Lin Moyu. 651, 651. Chapter 651. Too clever for his own good. The feeling of being suppressed was very uncomfortable. Lin Moyu had realized something was wrong, but couldn't find the source or solve it. He could only wait until he was strong enough to maybe discover the clues. Several hours later, Lin Moyu fully replenished his undead army. The holy sound wind chime still had no reaction, so Lin Moyu could only continue searching. As Lin Moyu went deeper into the Azure Dragon seafloor, the monster levels got higher and higher. It was now very difficult to encounter monsters below level 80. The commotion caused by the undead army grew larger, finally alerting the bosses on the seafloor. Soon, several world bosses came looking for trouble. The strongest was already level 87, with the others at levels 84 and 85. In the past, Lin Moyu would have definitely turned and left without a word. Fighting water-based bosses on the seafloor was not a pleasant thing. Even if he fought, it would be very difficult. But with the appearance of the god-level Skeleton King, everything became extremely simple. The sword light looked so dazzling in the pitch-black seafloor. With absolute dominance, the Skeleton King killed the bosses in just a few sword strikes. This brought Lin Moyu a large amount of experience, as well as several good quasi-legendary equipment pieces. Lin Moyu felt the bosses were good people, coming from afar to deliver equipment and experience. 5 days later, the light of leveling up rose around Lin Moyu again. After level 75, the experience requirements increased again, and leveling speed slowed down accordingly. Especially after several world bosses were killed, the monsters on the Azure Dragon seafloor seemed to receive some signal and no longer came to bother Lin Moyu. Later on, They would even flee upon smelling the aura of the undead army. They moved extremely fast in the water. Except for the Headless Knight using its charge skill to chase a bit, the others simply couldn't catch up at other times. This greatly slowed down Lin Moyu's leveling speed. It took a full 5 days to level up once. Lin Moyu stood in the water. Leveling up didn't bring much joy. Not only did the suppressed feeling appear again, but he also hadn't found the Sound God's divine core.
The worst-case scenario has occurred. It seems the divine core is no longer on the Azure Dragon sea floor. Then the most likely possibility is that it flowed into the vortex.
Lin Moyu's expression was a bit solemn. He really didn't want to conflict with the deity in the vortex now. It wasn't that he was afraid, but rather he didn't want to act rashly without knowing the other party's background. After all, the other possessed soul attack abilities, which was the most troublesome thing. Lin Moyu pondered for a long time and decided to search once more, in case he had missed something. He flew out of the Azure Dragon Sea to the sky above the wild continent, repositioned in the air, then dove back into the Azure Dragon Sea to search again. After using up another 5 days, he still found nothing.
Do I really have to go to the vortex?
Lin Moyu pondered for a long time, then took out Antares' dragon scale. He activated the dragon scale with a slight movement of soul power.
Antares!
There was no response. Lin Moyu knew this guy must be asleep again, so he called again. After calling over 10 times, there was finally movement from Antares.
I was in the middle of a dream. Spit it out if you have something to say. If it's nothing, I'll swallow you.
Antares' voice carried the irritation of being woken up, very unhappy. Lin Moyu didn't care about its temper and got straight to the point.
You know about the great vortex in the lower space, right? Of course I know.
Antares snorted.
There's nothing in this world that this dragon doesn't know.
Lin Moyu said.
Can you not boast?
Antares snorted again.
Except for your affairs.
Lin Moyu said.
I want to go to the great vortex.
The dragon scale shook non-stop. A dragon's roar came, accompanied by Antares' angry voice.
What are you going there for, to seek death?
Lin Moyu said.
Why? That's where the sole great god is sleeping. Do you know what a great god is? Brat, even if you want to seek death, that's not how you do it.
Antares was a bit anxious, afraid Lin Moyu had already gone. Lin Moyu said.
Don't worry, I'm just thinking about it. I haven't gone yet.
Hearing Lin Moyu say this, Antares felt a bit relieved.
Don't go. That guy hasn't woken up yet. Anyone who approaches will be considered an enemy. I see.
Regarding this point, Lin Moyu had already guessed. What Antares said wasn't too different from his guess. Antares suddenly asked.
Why do you want to go there? There's nothing there.
Lin Moyu told him about Kunlun Great God getting rid of him. Antares said.
Then you don't need to go. The Sound God's divine core is in the Azure Dragon Sea, not in the Great Vortex. But I've searched the entire Azure Dragon Sea and didn't find it.
Lin Moyu frowned. Antares wouldn't talk nonsense. Could he really have missed something? Antares chuckled.
Anyway, I've told you. As for whether you can find it, that's up to you. I'm going back to sleep. Don't disturb me unless it's important. Disturb me again and I really will eat you. Don't think I won't dare.
With that, Antares cut off the connection. Lin Moyu laughed. It wasn't that Antares didn't dare, but that he wouldn't. This guy just all talk. But it was fortunate he asked Antares. Otherwise, if he had rashly gone over, there really would have been big trouble.
Since Antares said the divine core is still in the Azure Dragon Sea, it must be there. I've clearly searched twice. Could there really be something I missed?
Lin Moyu recalled his search process, certain he hadn't missed anything.
There must be somewhere I overlooked. Think again.
Lin Moyu chose to believe Antares' words, feeling there must be something he hadn't noticed. Lin Moyu pondered the problem in the sea, recalling all the details. Soul power flowed slowly, transmitting all the surrounding information without missing a drop. Suddenly, Lin Moyu discovered a problem he had previously noticed but then ignored. Ocean currents. Though the Azure Dragon seafloor was calm, there were still ocean currents. Near the vortex, the currents flowed towards it. At the time, Lin Moyu had worried whether the currents would carry the divine core over. Later, as he moved away from the vortex, the currents disappeared. Lin Moyu concluded the divine core hadn't entered the vortex. After that, he never paid attention to the currents again. Now he discovered the currents still existed, just much weaker. The subtle current force was very small, but it existed year-round. The divine core had fallen into the Azure Dragon Sea who knows how many years ago. It was possible it had been slowly carried along by the currents. Finally grasping the key point, his eyes flashing with light, Lin Moyu sank to the seafloor. Standing on the seafloor, Lin Moyu carefully sensed the changes in the currents with his soul power. He discovered all the currents were actually flowing in one direction. Needless to say, the divine core must have been carried in that direction. Unless the currents had changed over the years. Lin Moyu followed the currents and finally arrived at where they converged. Here he sensed a crevice.
Undersea canyon, deep sea trench.
Lin Moyu laughed wryly. There was actually an undersea canyon. He had been too clever for his own good. He originally thought staying 50,000 meters from the seafloor would cover everything up and down. Even if the divine core was accidentally obtained by some monster and taken to the ice layer under the wild continent, he would still be able to sense it. He just forgot there could be canyons and trenches on the seafloor. How deep the trench was, who could say? It could be over 100,000 meters deep, naturally beyond his sensing range. Now that he discovered it, Lin Moyu didn't hesitate and directly entered. The sea trench was not small in scale, and there were also many monsters here. Lin Moyu arrived with his undead army, and these monsters fled in panic. Over the past few days, Lin Moyu had swept through the Azure Dragon seafloor several times. The monsters were all afraid of him now. The depth of the sea trench exceeded Lin Moyu's imagination, at least over 80,000 meters. The pressure had reached an astonishing level. Even Lin Moyu's endurance had reached its limit. The undead army stopped at 50,000 meters. The Lich General continuously healed the undead army. Here, they were constantly taking damage at all times. If the undead army had come down together, even the Lich General might not be able to heal in time. They wouldn't last long. There was no battle now, so they didn't need to participate. Staying here on standby, they could join the battle at full health when needed. Lin Moyu went alone to the bottom of the sea trench, following the currents forward.
Ding dong.
His soul heard a melodious sound. The holy sound wind chime glowed faintly, illuminating this pitch-black world.
It really is here.
Lin Moyu followed the currents. There was resistance in the ocean, so his speed wasn't as fast as in other places. Even 100 kilometers took quite some time. The sensing grew stronger and stronger. A faint light appeared before him. Lin Moyu saw the divine core lying on the seafloor, shimmering together with the holy sound wind chime. The moment Lin Moyu saw the divine core, a huge force surged over, hitting Lin Moyu like a heavy punch. Lin Moyu didn't feel anything. He knew this was a warning, not a real attack. A pair of glowing red eyes appeared above the divine core, staring intently at Lin Moyu. Then countless monsters appeared in his soul sense. All those monsters that had previously avoided him at all costs now rushed back. 652, 652. Chapter 652. It's the user's limit, not the skill's limit. The God core of the sound god emitted a dazzling radiance. The God core is the essence of a god, possessing extremely powerful strength. This monster had clearly absorbed some power from the God core, becoming extremely powerful. Just like the poison python back then, which became powerful after absorbing the poison god's power. But no matter how powerful, it was nothing special in Lin Moyu's eyes. In the lower space, except for a few special existences, even the strongest had limits. At least the monster before him didn't belong to those special existences. In his soul's perception, this was a giant octopus. Each tentacle was over 1,000 meters long, with huge suction cups. Dark liquid flowed inside its semi-transparent body. Lin Moyu guessed it was probably venom. Octopus-type monsters could all spray ink, and this one probably could too. Lin Moyu didn't take it seriously. It seemed to sense the threat as well, its pair of crimson eyes staring fixedly at Lin Moyu. 8 tentacles surrounded the god core, but it didn't dare touch it. Law power entwined around the god core, as if protecting itself from being touched by foreign objects. Lin Moyu suddenly thought of the immaculateness in the Kunlun Divine Palace. It shouldn't be the work of the Kunlun Great God, so it must be the Sound God's doing. The Sound God with obsessive cleanliness wouldn't allow even her left-behind god core to be touched by filthy things. The sound bell in Lin Moyu's hand kept emitting soft chimes, resonating with the god core. The sound bell seemed to have encountered an old friend not seen for years, constantly calling out. The god core was the same, constantly breathing towards the sound bell. Lin Moyu sensed various emotions between the two: longing, urgency, return, etc. The commotion between the two grew larger, bursting out with astonishing radiance. The sound bell kept shaking, wanting to break free from Lin Moyu's grasp and fly towards the god core.
Don't worry, I'll take you back.
After he said this with his soul voice, the sound bell and god core suddenly quieted down. Many monsters had already come over, surrounding Lin Moyu. These monsters seemed to know Lin Moyu and were aware of how terrifying he was, but had to come due to the octopus's summons. Lin Moyu cast a detection spell on the octopus.
Let me see, after absorbing a bit of the god core's power, how strong you've become.
The god core's power wasn't easy to absorb. It belonged to gods and was very difficult to utilize, especially the sound god's god core, which possessed laws and was a high-grade god core. Deep Sea Giant Octopus, World-Class Boss. Level 88. Strength 2,800,000. Agility 1,500,000. Spirit 1 million.
Constitution 2,7 cents,000.
Skills: Death Entanglement, Toxic Ink, Deadly Suction Cups. Traits: Water Element Immunity, Poison Element Damage reduced by 50%, Physical Damage reduced by 50%, Limb Sacrifice. Total attributes of 8 million, a top-tier world-class boss. Invincible below God level. Its attributes were slightly stronger than other level 88 bosses, increased by about 800,000. This seemed to be the result of it absorbing the God Core's power. The God Core's power was too difficult to utilize. Even after absorbing for so many years, it only increased its attributes by this much. The deep-sea giant octopus violently waved its 8 tentacles. Like a signal, all the monsters attacked Lin Moyu simultaneously. Lin Moyu's mind moved, activating skills. Skill: Summon Skeleton King. Skill: Focus. This was the first time using focus after obtaining it. The undead army was overhead, tens of thousands of meters away. The water pressure here was too great, unsuitable for the undead army to fight. However, Lin Moyu summoned the Skeleton King before using focus. It wasn't to use the Skeleton King to fight, but Lin Moyu wanted to try if he could inherit the Skeleton King's skills and attributes. The Skeleton King's attributes came from skeletons. If he could inherit its attributes again, wouldn't that be double inheritance? If it really worked, it would be like a cheat skill. An astonishing aura suddenly burst from Lin Moyu's body, God-level aura rolling out. Focus: 99% fusion consumes soul power to gather the power of summons. Inherit all skills of summons. Attributes after using skills are only limited by the user's own soul level. While in focus state, killing enemies can harvest their souls, replenish own soul consumption, and improve own soul level. Focus was an origin skill with a high fusion rate of 99%. Could ignore low restrictions, only limited by Lin Moyu's soul level. It also had no cooldown, only consuming soul power. As long as soul power was sufficient, this state could be maintained year-round.
Soul power consumption is so fast.
This was the first time using an origin skill. The speed of soul power consumption was quite astonishing. His soul power could only last 10 seconds at most. However, this skill could replenish soul consumption by killing enemies and even improve soul level. As for how much could be replenished or improved, it was unknown. After using focus, Lin Moyu checked his attributes. Strength, agility, spirit,
Constitution.
skills, God-slaying, elemental chaos, absolute defense, berserk strike, soul shooting, legion enhancement, legion healing, elimination, charge, group defense. Total attributes of 12 million, the attributes of a level 92 God-level expert. Limited by soul level, 12 million was Lin Moyu's current attribute limit, but not the skill's limit. As Lin Moyu's soul level improved, this skill would only get stronger. What surprised Lin Moyu most was that the Monarch Scepter still worked, its attribute bonus unaffected. This way, Lin Moyu's attributes broke through the level 92 limit, even surpassing level 93. 14 million attributes were already in the realm of level 94. The Monarch Scepter still working was unexpected, while inheriting the Skeleton King's skills was expected. He took out a platinum-grade greatsword from his storage space. For Lin Moyu, the level of the sword didn't matter, as long as it was a sword. Skill, elemental chaos. Without any targeting, Lin Moyu detonated the skill at maximum range, attacking comprehensively. The calm seabed of the Azure Dragon Sea instantly became explosive. The Sea Trench Canyon exploded, most of the Azure Dragon Sea boiling. Countless monsters were instantly killed, turning into soul power flowing in. It was as if a giant hand had plundered all the tightly gripped souls of the monsters. Experience increased, skill duration also increased. The soul power consumed by focus was instantly replenished, with even some surplus. Lin Moyu also felt his soul level improving, though only a negligible bit, but still not bad. If he kept using focus to kill enemies in the future, over time it would have considerable benefits for his soul. This was a miraculous skill. Origin skills were far more miraculous than he had imagined. With one strike, tens of thousands of monsters were instantly killed. The remaining monsters fled with terrified cries. The deep-sea giant octopus was also injured in the explosion. Lin Moyu's attack was too strong. Even without targeting it specifically, it couldn't withstand it. Ink seeped from its wounds, dyeing the seawater black. It was extremely terrified, not understanding how this guy before it could be so powerful. It didn't need to understand. A bright sword light had already flashed on Lin Moyu's sword. Skill, God slaying. The deep-sea giant octopus sensed the threat of death and turned to flee with a scream. At this point, things like God cores didn't matter anymore. What use was a God core if it couldn't keep its life? Sword light lit up on the deep-sea giant octopus's body, slicing it into pieces like tofu. But the next second, its body reversed time, restoring to its original state. Only one of its 8 tentacles was missing. The deep-sea giant octopus's trait, limb sacrifice. Lin Moyu smiled.
8 tentacles can substitute death 8 times. Not a bad skill.
He clenched his fist, activating a skill he hadn't used in a long time. Skill, Bone Prison. This skill hadn't been used for a long time. Since his combat power became strong, this skill's usefulness decreased. But now Lin Moyu used it again. The fleeing deep-sea giant octopus paused for an instant. The level 76 Bone Prison could only trap it for about half a second. Half a second was long enough to be fatal. Lin Moyu activated the charge skill, instantly crossing thousands of meters, catching up to the deep-sea giant octopus. The great sword swung, slashing out countless sword lights. With level 94 attributes, he completely outmatched the deep-sea giant octopus. Even without using skills, each strike had powerful destructive force. The deep-sea giant octopus was enveloped in sword light, screaming incessantly, unable to escape or counterattack. Tentacles broke one by one, each break representing one death. In less than 10 seconds, as the sword light faded, the deep-sea giant octopus had been thoroughly sliced to pieces. All 9 limb sacrifices were exhausted. It was completely dead. 653, 653. Chapter 653, Water God's Palace, Statues of Gods. Among the many world bosses Lin Moyu had killed, the deep-sea giant octopus probably died the most miserably. Due to its death substitution trait, it couldn't be instantly killed. It was literally dismembered sword by sword, without any ability to resist from start to finish. Using the focus skill, it only took about 10 seconds to reap a wave of experience. Killed deep-sea giant octopus. Experience plus ***. Obtained deep-sea longsword. Obtained deep-sea ring. Obtained water crystal. Obtained water god stone. Deep-sea longsword. Quasi-legendary weapon. All attributes plus 90,000. Knight class skill amplification plus 160%. Attached skill. Water entanglement. Water entanglement. Slows target's movement speed. Duration 30 seconds. Cooldown 5 minutes. Deep sea ring. Quasi-legendary accessory. All attributes plus %. Water crystal. Legendary material. Crystal filled with water element. Can be used to forge legendary equipment. Water god stone. Permanently increases water element immunity to 80%. Chance to obtain a water element skill. Looking at the rewards, Lin Moyu's eyes showed slight delight. It had been a long time since he obtained an item that could increase elemental immunity. Now his poison, light, and electric elements were already completely immune. Among common elements, only water, fire, and wind elements hadn't caught up, only immune to 50%. Increasing elemental immunity wasn't an easy thing. This time water element immunity was finally raised to 80%, which was the immunity cap in the conventional sense. Without special opportunities, immunity would stop here, difficult to improve further. Lin Moyu put away the focus skill and returned to the seabed, coming to the God Core side. The God Core was only fist-sized, with laws entwined around it. The laws had offensive power. Not everyone was qualified to touch a high-level God's God Core. Lin Moyu didn't want to confront the laws. He took out the sound bell and said softly,
Put away the laws, I'll take you back to Kunlun.
The sound bell rang with a hum, and the sound god's God Core also hummed at the same time. Then the laws disappeared.
It seems the sound god should still have a remnant soul left.
From the reactions of the sound bell and God Core, Lin Moyu guessed that although the sound god had fallen, she hadn't completely fallen. Perhaps she had used some method to preserve a bit of remnant soul. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to understand what he said. He picked up the God Core and put it together with the sound bell, then put them away. The deal with the Kunlun Great God was mostly completed. Now he just had to go back. Lin Moyu slowly rose, about to leave. Suddenly he stopped again.
The ocean currents have changed.
Lin Moyu keenly sensed that the ocean currents at the bottom of the sea had changed. Soul perception was much more sensitive than eyesight, clearly sensing these subtle changes. The deep-sea giant octopus's corpse fell to the bottom of the sea trench, a large amount of ink flowing out from inside. A large area of the seabed was dyed black, so thick it couldn't dissolve. It faintly emitted a green light, and one could sense the intense poison contained within. The ink didn't mix with water, and initially gathered in a clump, forming an irregular area. According to the previous currents, it should have been buried in the sea trench. But now the currents changed, carrying it upwards. The change in currents was tiny, but why did it change now, not earlier or later? From where the God Core fell, Lin Moyu judged that the currents shouldn't have changed for hundreds or thousands of years. Now that it changed, it must be abnormal. The currents left the sea trench and headed towards the wild continent. Below the wild continent was a hundreds of meters thick ice layer, separating the Azure Dragon Sea from the wild continent. Now the currents were surging towards the ice layer. Lin Moyu saw along the currents that a hole had been broken under the ice layer. A large amount of seawater was pouring in. Seawater backflow? Lin Moyu looked for a while and found it wasn't so. It seemed some force was drawing in a large amount of seawater. Lin Moyu thought for a moment and decided to go in and take a look. At the same time, to be safe, he still held Antares' dragon scale in his hand. The undead army had been put away. Here was already not far from the sea surface, only about 1,000 meters deep. That little pressure wasn't enough to harm Lin Moyu. Following the backflowing seawater, Lin Moyu quickly moved forward in the ice layer. Soon, Lin Moyu sensed the aura of a god.
It's the water god.
Long ago, Lin Moyu had obtained 2 items from the water element dungeon, the water god's flute and the water god's key. Through soul perception, he could sense the divine aura on these 2 items. It was exactly the same as the aura he sensed now. As Lin Moyu was thinking, the scene before him suddenly opened up. He followed the water flow into a huge frozen space, hundreds of meters high and over 1,000 meters deep. In the center of the space stood a light blue palace. The palace was made entirely of ice blocks, exuding an astonishing chill. All the water flowing in here was instantly vaporized and disappeared. It wasn't vaporization caused by high temperature, but decomposition into pure water elements, then flying towards the ice palace.
The water god's palace.
Lin Moyu quickly guessed the origin of this palace. Inside the palace, the divine aura became more intense. However, upon careful sensing, Lin Moyu found that these divine auras lacked vitality, not like they were controlled by someone.
The water god probably hasn't awakened yet.
Lin Moyu quickly made a judgment. He had already dealt with several gods and could fully distinguish the various states of gods. Just from the aura emitted by the god, he could judge whether they were dead, awakened, or asleep. Gods only had these 3 states. Lin Moyu walked to the palace entrance and took out the water god's key. The water god's key wasn't shaped like a key, but a fist-sized ice block with a few drops of flowing liquid in the center. As soon as the key was taken out, it actively flew towards the palace, merging into the palace gate. Then the palace gate opened automatically, a chill rushing out from the palace, hitting him in the face. The bone armor naturally activated, blocking the chill. The palace hadn't been opened for who knows how many years, accumulating a shocking amount of water elements inside. This chill was the materialization of water elements. Water has thousands of forms, heavy and light, ice and heat. From the information obtained so far, the water god was more skilled in wielding low-temperature water elements. As the palace gate opened, Lin Moyu walked in. He wasn't afraid or worried about the water god. He didn't sense the aura of laws. At most, the water god would be a level 95 mid-tier god. For such a god, Lin Moyu had a chance of slaying them if he went all out. The water god's palace was entirely made of ice blocks, with fountains everywhere constantly spewing water elements and divine aura. Hundreds of huge ice sculptures stood in the palace, very exquisite. When he was in the water god's courtyard before, Lin Moyu had also seen various exquisite carvings, which he still vividly remembered. The water god's understanding of beauty had reached a considerable height. Water elements permeated the air. Divine aura enveloped everything. Lin Moyu admired the sculptures one by one. The sculptures were of various styles: sword-wielding warriors, axe-wielding giants, flame-holding gods. Each was exquisitely crafted, lifelike. Each sculpture represented a god.
There really were quite a few gods.
Lin Moyu sighed softly as he looked at the sculptures. He knew there were many gods in the world before, but didn't expect there to be so many. Just these sculptures alone represented hundreds of gods. His soul power swept across, counting exactly 681 sculptures, representing 681 gods. Perhaps there were even more gods that weren't sculpted. Gods were equivalent to human god-level career holders, abyss demon kings, and dragon kings. How many god-level career holders were there among humans? At most a few dozen, even at their peak no more than 100. There were more demon kings and dragon kings. Demon kings were said to number 300, dragon kings at most over 100. The 3 races combined didn't have as many as the gods. But for some reason, the gods all fell. The gods still alive now had hidden themselves, rarely appearing in the world. The only truly living god Lin Moyu had seen was killed by him.
If the gods were still alive today, the 3 races probably wouldn't matter much.
Passing through the sculptures, he came to the second courtyard of the palace. There were also many sculptures here, but no longer of gods, but of huge monsters. A huge monster sculpture was placed in the center. Lin Moyu looked over and was suddenly shocked.
The Beast King! No, not the Beast King!
Lin Moyu immediately denied his own words. He had seen the Beast King with his own eyes. It was 7 or 8 tenths similar to the sculpture before him, but not exactly the same. His gaze searched among the sculptures and saw another sculpture not far away. That was the Beast King. Compared to the one in the center, it was much smaller in both temperament and scale. Lin Moyu instantly confirmed that the sculpture in the center was in existence even more powerful than the Beast King. 654, 654. Chapter 654. Sighs are useless, the water god awakens. The courtyard of the second palace had fewer statues than the first courtyard. There were only around 50 statues, all depicting various kinds of monsters. The monster statue in the center bore a 7/10 resemblance to the King of Beasts, but it was even more powerful than the King of Beasts. Near the statue, Lin Moyu found the statue of the King of Beasts, as well as statues of other beasts. From these statues, Lin Moyu could discern the differences between the beasts. Apart from their different forms, the most important difference was their fur. The beasts had several thick, long strands of fur on their heads. These strands of fur looked extremely sturdy, unlike the fur on the rest of their bodies. The King of Beasts had 6 strands of fur on its head. Ordinary small beasts had 3 to 5 strands of fur. But the statue in the center had a full 9 strands of fur.
The number of fur strands must represent the beast's strength.
Lin Moyu muttered to himself.
Beasts with 3 to 5 strands of fur should be ordinary beasts. 6 strands is the King of Beasts. This must be the sovereign of the beasts.
From this, Lin Moyu could analyze that the beasts were a powerful group with strict hierarchies and formidable combat prowess.
Based on this statue, the great war back then must have been between the gods and the beasts. It's highly likely that the gods fell because of this. There were similar scenes in the Thunder God's realm. But what are these?
The mystery of the gods' downfall was partially unveiled by these statues. However, apart from the beast statues in the courtyard, there were also other statues that looked like insects of various kinds. Huge insect statues. The smallest was over 2 meters tall, while the largest exceeded 10 meters. The insect statues looked extremely lifelike and ferocious, even more terrifying than the beast statues. Based on his previous guesses about the beasts, Lin Moyu felt that these insects might also have been one of the reasons for the god's downfall. But the statues alone did not provide enough information for further analysis. Lin Moyu continued forward into the third courtyard. Here too there were many statues, but these were statues of humans. Human professionals wearing all kinds of equipment, wielding weapons, each with a majestic aura. These were all god-level experts. The thought arose in Lin Moyu's mind that one had to reach the god level to be qualified to become a statue. 300 statues. Lin Moyu counted, and there were exactly 300 statues, representing 300 god-level experts.
I didn't expect there to be so many god-level experts among the humans back then.
Lin Moyu said in surprise. The statues were arranged in a triangular formation, with only 2 statues at the apex. Row after row stretched out behind them in an orderly fashion. Lin Moyu could see that the 2 statues at the very tip must have been the 2 strongest humans at that time. The further back the rows went, the more statues there were, and the weaker their strength.
The Kunlun great deity once said that in those days, human geniuses were everywhere. It took only a few years to go from a job change to becoming a god. It seems that was indeed the case. Compared to now, those were truly glorious times.
Lin Moyu respectfully bowed to the human statues, for they were his ancestors. Regardless of the reasons, they had paid the price of blood for this world and for the human race.
The faith of the human race will not be broken, and the legacy will not be severed. Ancestors, rest in peace.
After saying this, Lin Moyu continued forward into the fourth courtyard. In his mind, He had already connected the statues from the 3 courtyards, forming a picture of what had happened in those days based on his guesses. The gods and humans had joined forces to launch an offensive against the beasts and those insect creatures. That battle must have been extremely brutal. The end result should have been the victory of the humans and gods. Otherwise, this world would not have become what it is now. But the price paid must have been unimaginable. In the 4th courtyard, there was only a single statue. The statue was over 20 meters tall, depicting a female figure. Frozen within the statue was also a female figure.
The water god.
Lin Moyu sensed the aura of a god from her and judged that she must be the true form of the water god. Just to be safe, he used a detection spell. Water god. Sleeping state. The detection spell could not return the water god's specific attributes, but it was enough for Lin Moyu to confirm that the frozen figure was indeed the water god. The water god was very beautiful, not stunningly so, but possessing the most beautiful qualities of human females. On her, it was almost impossible to find any flaws. Even in her frozen state, she exuded a gentle and pitiful femininity. Lin Moyu had to admit that the water god was the most beautiful female he had ever seen. When he took out the water god's flute, the water god's aura immediately fluctuated slightly. The water god's flute emitted a gentle glow, flowing like water into the water god's embrace. Unlike the violent reaction with the thunder god, everything here exuded a gentle fluidity like water. The water god's flute flew out of Lin Moyu's hand, touched the ice block, and silently melted into it, falling onto the water god's hand. The massive ice sculpture melted in the blink of an eye, turning into water elements that dissipated into the air. The entire process happened in an instant, but it still appeared smooth and without the slightest hint of smoke or fire. With the ice melted, the water god hovered in mid-air and let out a light sigh before opening her eyes. Her light blue eyes were beautiful beyond description, causing Lin Moyu to momentarily lose focus. The original water god was already perfect enough, but now she had an added hint of stunning beauty and fragility. The sigh made one's heart ache, as if carrying endless grievances. The water god looked at Lin Moyu.
Thank you for awakening me.
Her voice and tone were as gentle as her appearance. Although Lin Moyu felt that the water god meant him no harm, he remained on guard. After the water god awakened, water elements continuously surged over. The water god's aura fluctuated constantly, rising and falling, very unstable. Lin Moyu knew this was not normal. The water god's injuries had not healed.
Respected water god, have your injuries recovered?
The water god slowly descended from mid-air, letting out another sigh. She did not answer, but the answer was clear. Lin Moyu could sense her helplessness.
Are your injuries that severe?
Sadness welled up in the water god's eyes.
My roots are injured, making it very difficult to heal.
Her sadness permeated the palace, and the water elements churned up waves. Lin Moyu noticed that in just this short time, the water god's aura had become even more unstable than before. It seemed that awakening her was not a good thing for her.
Is there really no other way?
Lin Moyu asked.
There is, but it's very difficult.
The water god smiled.
We gods are different from you humans. For you humans, healing techniques have no effect on us. Our roots lie in our divine souls, or what you humans call souls.
Lin Moyu said.
If it's difficult, that means there's a way. Tell me, perhaps I can help.
Lin Moyu was neither a good nor a bad person. From what he could see, the water god had once fought alongside the human ancestors, and he was the one who had awakened her. So if he could help, he was willing to do so. The water god said,
If the god of life were still around, there might be a chance. But alas, she was the first among us to fall. However, the god of life would not truly perish. She should have a chance to be reborn. If I could hold on until then.
The water god's voice suddenly trailed off as she noticed the staff in Lin Moyu's hand, the creation staff. Lin Moyu shook his head.
She has likely perished completely.
Surprise flashed across the water god's eyes.
Even the creation staff has been shattered. It seems something else must have happened later. Could you tell me what happened?
There was nothing that couldn't be said. So Lin Moyu briefly recounted what had happened in the realm of decay. The water god's expression turned disappointed.
It seems there's no chance then.
Lin Moyu shook his head.
Apart from the god of life, is there really no other way?
The water god let out a sigh.
Perhaps there is.
Hearing the water god's sigh, it seemed as if even the water elements in the world felt a tinge of sadness. But Lin Moyu's resolve remained firm, unmoved. He disliked this sense of grievance. He preferred to solve problems when they arose. Sighing was the most useless approach. Lin Moyu said,
I'll see if there's another way. Thank you. But whether I can be revived or not is not important.
The water god said softly. It seemed she did not place much importance on life and death, but she was still grateful that Lin Moyu was willing to help. Lin Moyu asked,
I want to ask, why did your sleeping place not manifest until now, when there was suddenly activity?
He knew that although the water god was asleep, she was not completely unaware of the outside world. At the very least, she was aware of some of the things happening around her and knew how long she had been asleep. The water god said softly,
It's because of the divine power of the god of holy sound. She is a higher god, and her divine power is strong enough to suppress my innate will.
There are strict hierarchies among the gods, lower gods, middle gods, higher gods, great gods. Each level is completely different in status and strength. If she were not asleep, the god of holy sound's divine power would not have had much influence on her. But she herself was also severely injured and asleep, so the god of holy sound's divine power could affect her. 655, 655. Chapter 655. Don't even know who the enemy is. Lin Moyu didn't really understand the relationships between the gods. However, from the water god's words, it was clear that the relationships between the gods were both simple and complex. The factions were distinct, and the water god was the leader of the water element. It could be said that all gods of the water element were her subordinates. When Lin Moyu heard this information, he was a little surprised.
You.
Lin Moyu was surprised by the water god's strength, which wasn't as strong as he had imagined. As the leader of a faction, why was she only a low-level god, not even a mid-level one? The water god guessed Lin Muyu's thoughts and smiled slightly.
Do you think my strength is very poor?
Lin Moyu didn't deny it.
Indeed, as the leader of an elemental faction, you seem a bit weak.
The water god smiled, a smile that made 1,000 flowers bloom, stunningly beautiful. Her soft voice slowly rang out.
You're very honest, that's good. Back then, we were also honest with you humans, which is how we achieved the final victory. Our wind, water, fire, lightning, and light gods shouldn't be this weak. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the Great War, we were stripped of our power, fell from our divine positions, and became low-level gods. If it weren't for that, the war wouldn't have been so tough.
Lin Moyu was a bit puzzled.
Who stripped you of your power?
The water god gently shook her head.
I don't know, no one knows. We don't know who did it or what method was used. Anyway, we just fell from the divine altar. Then guess, what level were we at the beginning?
The water god seemed to relax a bit and was even willing to joke with Lin Moyu. Her state was very good, unhurried, as if she didn't care about her life slipping away. Actually, Lin Moyu knew that what she should do most now was to continue sleeping. This way, she could live for many more years. Thousands or even tens of thousands of years wouldn't be a problem. However, the water god didn't want to sleep. She wanted to talk and chat. Lin Moyu thought for a moment.
You were probably at the super god level.
The water god laughed softly.
You're very smart. You guessed right.
She wasn't surprised, as if she had expected Lin Moyu to guess. The hierarchy of gods was such that after high-level gods came great gods. Great gods were at the same level as the human half-step supergods. After great gods, there were supergods equivalent to human supergods, meaning they surpassed ordinary gods and reached another realm. Lin Moyu didn't guess randomly. He had his reasons. Why would a mysterious existence target the leaders of the elemental gods? Moreover, the water god said that if they still had their power, the war wouldn't have been so difficult. To be the leader of an elemental faction, how could they be weak? Kunlun Great God wasn't targeted, but they were. There was only one answer. They were stronger than great gods and were at the same level as human supergods. Lin Moyu said.
Can you tell me what happened back then?
The water god looked at Lin Moyu.
Do you really want to know? We made an agreement with the humans to bury this matter in history, only to be known by those who reach the great god level. Although your strength is good, your level is still too low. Knowing too early isn't good for you. It might shake your confidence.
Lin Moyu replied earnestly.
I've heard similar words many times. From the first time I entered the Fire God's dungeon and discovered this secret, I've been pursuing it. I really want to know the answer, to know what happened back then. Don't worry about affecting me, I'm very strong. I've seen many strong beings in this world and beyond. For example, Antares, you should have heard of this name.
Lin Moyu took out Antares' dragon scale, which carried Antares' aura, believing the water god would recognize it. Antares had existed for many years, even from the previous era, possibly even older. Antares had witnessed that great war but refused to talk about it. On purpose, just to make Lin Moyu frustrated. Lin Moyu asked many times, but Antares always evaded, finally making Lin Moyu give up. When the water god saw the dragon scale, her eyes shimmered slightly.
You managed to get the Lord's token. You're quite remarkable. All right, since you want to know, I'll tell you.
Lin Moyu was slightly pleased. He had finally chased this matter for so long and was about to get the answer. The water god pointed to the courtyard outside.
You saw the ice sculptures in the 3 courtyards when you came in, right?
Lin Moyu nodded.
Yes, the one in the middle should be the enemy. I saw wild beasts. The 1st and 3rd courtyards were gods and human professionals attacking the enemy.
The water god, with a beautiful smile, her voice as clear as water droplets, said,
Your understanding is correct. At that time, they invaded, and we allied with the humans to fight them. We, the super god level gods, were stripped of our power, fell from the divine altar, and became low-level gods. I was too weak to fight, so I made ice sculptures to record the situation. If you reach the great god level, or your half-step super god level, you can get all the information from the ice sculptures. This way, even if I fall, this information will be known.
The water god was prepared that even if she fell and completely died, eventually, someone would discover this place and obtain the corresponding information. The water god slowly talked about what happened back then. This history should be buried but also shouldn't be. For the entire world, it was a disaster. Not only for humans, not only for gods, but for the entire world. At that time, an external enemy invaded, and the world was in danger. The strongest gods were stripped of their power, fell from the divine altar, and were greatly weakened. The humans only had one super god, unable to take the lead. The level of the war was too high, and those qualified to participate were at least god level. Low-level gods were just cannon fodder. From the beginning, gods and humans were passive, beaten badly. If it continued like this, both humans and gods would surely lose, and the world's destruction was imminent. The worlds will began to revive. With the revival of the world's will, the world's power began to stir. The world's will had no consciousness, only instincts. It instinctively sensed the danger. Under the influence of the world's power, human talents emerged, and many professionals became gods. True geniuses reached high-level godhood, half-step supergod. In a few years, there were more than 10 supergods. The invaders were only wild beasts, and humans had figured them out, getting stronger in the fight. The war finally turned in favor of humans and gods. At this moment, a second invader appeared. The second invader was called the Zerg. Their arrival changed the war's dynamics. The battlefield became more dangerous and strange. The war lasted 100 years, exhausting the world's power, and the worlds will fell back into sleep. After paying a great and tragic price, humans barely won the final victory. Unfortunately, the world was severely damaged. Almost all the gods died, with few survivors, heavily injured and in slumber. Human supergods and half-step supergods all died, with only one high-level god left, also severely injured. The world's power was exhausted, and it was unknown when it would recover. Professional inheritance was cut off, and the slow recovery of the world's power made it difficult for humans to produce genius figures. But they won, giving humans a lot of time to recuperate. But the good times didn't last long. Perhaps the war damaged the world's barriers. 100 years after the war, the Abyss and Dragon Realm descended simultaneously. Humans fell into crisis again. But now, humans have finally endured and are getting stronger. The world's power is also recovering, and more geniuses are emerging. Although not yet comparable to the peak period, as long as there are no more crises like that, humans will definitely recover completely. Lin Moyu finished listening to the water god story.
Antares should have been there at the time, right? Didn't it take action?
If Antares didn't take action, Lin Moyu planned to go back and scold it, that damn guy. The water god said,
The Lord did take action. Without the Lord, the final outcome would have been uncertain. But the Lord also said it had concerns and couldn't act lightly.
Lin Moyu also guessed about Antares' concerns. It seemed the dragon god threw. Here, it wasn't Antares' intention to come. Some things Antares refused to say, and Lin Moyu was too lazy to ask more. Now he roughly understood the course of events.
Do you know who wanted to invade us?
Lin Moyu directly asked the source of the war. Since they had fought, they should at least know who the enemy was. The water god sighed and shook her head.
Don't know. The world was almost destroyed, everyone almost died, and we still didn't know who the enemy was. Isn't it funny? Antares doesn't know either? The Lord knows but can't say.
656